Um, very happy to be here. I've learned from Gary Klein over the years that the best way to engage an audience is to tell a good story. So I'm not going to get into a lot of theory today. As some of you already heard, I'm one of the authors of the book on accelerated expertise. So I'm mostly going to tell a story about how we've operationalized it. But first, I'll go into a little bit of why this is important now. Accelerated learning and accelerated expertise, and I work mostly or entirely in business domains. And the issue is, we're very busy, is that because the world has gotten so much more complicated, this has become kind of a crisis. That technology has increased 50-fold in just the last few years. And frankly, human beings have not evolved in over 100,000 years. In fact, there's a debate now that it's more like 170,000 years. But we still have managed to get out of caves and use iPhones. So it's obvious that we can learn, and the question is how. Schools are only maybe 1,000 years old, if that, and for most of us, only a couple hundred years old. So we obviously don't rely on school for very much of our learning. And then there's quite a bit of historic research on expertise, the whole 10,000-hour rule, but most of us NDM researchers do a lot of work that flies in the face of that. And we won't get into that now, but there's quite a bit of research, actually since the 80s, on accelerated learning. But back to that for 1 second. Accelerated learning and accelerated expertise really deals with the topic of transforming how people think rather than getting them to have more content. Thinking very differently about the same things. And that's what it's all about. I think you've been picking up on that with the other talks. Now for business, my company, ACSI Labs, we work with immersive iterative rehearsal. And I'm doing a lot of research on why it works. Basically what we've done, we've worked now with over 60 companies, and we've had some pretty remarkable results. And now our research question is, why is it working so well? And we're kind of, answering that question behind the scenes. Our customers don't care, they just care about the fact that it does work. But what we think is happening is that the adaptive unconscious actually learns 200,000 times faster. That's not original with us. That's Wagner's finding. And we have been pushing the envelope with how we design rehearsals to try to get accelerated learning to happen faster and faster. And you can read our papers about this, but we have a kind of recipe of how that happens. And basically, I'll go back to this for a second. We have gotten, in some cases, in some bounded domains, as much as 5 years of expertise in just a couple of weeks. And we think it has to do with time compression, iterations of trial and error. We think you need at least 65 decision points, and immediate dense feedback. So not a lot of time to reflect, but very instant, low density feedback. And we'll get into an example of that. How we do this, because we used to do it through kind of manual means with physical models, is we're building a platform that automates a lot of this. And you can go on our website and read more about it, but this is a very simplified model that would horrify all of my developers about, we have a virtual world that's also could be virtual reality or augmented reality, but it's what's behind it, all the 25 years of research that we've done that makes it different than other virtual worlds. Now, here's again, I've learned that the best way to illustrate this is to tell a story about it. This is a very complicated application of this. This looks like a nice city. It's actually a virtual world. It's one of our worlds. And then somewhere in this world, close to the base of the mountain, is a mine. And here's the control room in that mine. To the left, the little blonde there is a very unfortunate picture of me as an avatar. And I had my developer go in and take some screenshots. We tried to make a video of this, but it just won't work on Zoom. It's too many frame refresh rates. And what you see above his head, right here, if you can see my cursor, is four displays. In this particular version of our platform, we've got 4 mines being managed. So here is some live satellite video of actually the airport in New Mexico. Here is a city, but you know, the point is you can have CCTV of actual live events streaming into the virtual world. And over on the upper right is their mine. And then they have some mill throughput data. All of this is very dynamic, and they're actually managing a portfolio of 4 mines in this control room that's virtual. And these people are all real. They just see each other and work together in a virtual control room. They're actually not co-located in real life. Now, here my developer is visiting other aspects of the control room, and the person in the meeting room right here is giving a presentation on which mines they should be doing what kinds of things with. Behind him is streaming in the live gold price from the stock market. So they're watching that, and they're figuring out which of their gold mines they should, you know, basically increase production or decrease production with. But in another place that you could teleport to are digital twins of these mines. Now, this on the wall is a graphic of a performance dashboard. This is the key to what we do. You can rehearse major operations in the digital twins of these mines, like should we add more equipment? Should we try remote robotic vehicles? You can rehearse all that at the company level. You know, will we get more yield, and can the workers manage remote vehicles? You know, can they make that work or not? Let's see, you can try all that, and because it's an agent-based world, all of that can be tracked, and you can see if your strategy can survive contact with actual workers who have to make it work. But then you can also train people on soft skills. That's what this board is here. And here, that same board, a bunch of people are examining it on a smaller screen. And I'll show you what that is. Over here, what we're doing is we're measuring managers' ability to lead differently and its effect on tonnage, which is basically how many tons of gold are being produced by the mine. Now, this is a mine that's not in the United States. It's a leadership style that's a little bit more dictatorial. And what the managers are trying to learn is psychological safety, empowerment, and a more agile form of teaming. In other words, treating their workers as experts and subject matter leaders rather than as people that they supervise and order around. And what they're learning is that when they treat their workers that way, when they order them around and treat them like servants, the tonnage goal is actually lower. So they're going through an exercise that's virtual down below in a digital twin of the mine with their actual workers. And they're going through in compressed time a day in the life of the mine. And they're supervising them and leading them the way they normally do. And the environment itself is automatically scoring them against a new leadership model. Every time they're kind of jerks, they get a red. every time they're not really being very psychologically safe or empowering, they get a yellow. And every time they're complying with a better model, they get a green. And then that rolls up through an algorithm that our economists develop into a tonnage goal. And they can see, and everybody who visits the control room, anybody in the company worldwide, can see how they're doing on this exercise. So this is the first time they went through it, and this was their progress. So as you can see, today they're going to go through this again, and it's blank for now. So my developer visited them. He went underground to the digital twin of this particular mine where they're doing this exercise, and he's seeing how it's going. So here they're doing some drilling. The video is amazing, but again, it won't work on Zoom. It's too much going on. And here he is where they're preparing a rescue chamber in case something happens. And you know, the random event generator in these sims sometimes do set fires or cause seismic events, so they have to be prepared for that. And then you can see when he goes back up in the control room that they're doing a little better. And then by the end of the shift, you can see that they're doing much better. So they have learned from the feedback how to be better leaders. Important to note, they can get all of this feedback instantly on their screens or in their headsets if they're wearing an Oculus. So every time they make a decision, a micro decision, they get a green light, a red light, or a yellow light every single time they take an action. And that shows in the lower left of their screen. And they can also open up their heads-up display to see why they got that light. And they can also access a report to get detail. And now we look at the screen in the control room and we can see that you can click on this and anybody who's monitoring these 4 mines can click through the various things that are being monitored, and you can see that an exercise is taking place in this mine today, and you can see how they're doing. And then in other places, you can see what's going on in the other 3 mines. And you can see in the lower right, for example, that they're looking at whether or not to shut this mine down because of the situation with the buy and sell price of gold. So that's it. I just wanted to give you a very quick example of how we're doing this, where we're managing at the firm level, but we're also managing at the individual learning level. And there could be 200 people in this environment at one time.